And now we can do whatever we want. Welcome. We are now recording.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh. No, just kidding.
Oh no. Oh
Okay.
no.
Oh. All right, sweet. Let's do it. Okay. So, first episode, right? Very
That's
first.
right.
This is
That's
the
right.
numero uno on Unrepresented. So, Eric, who the
Brad.
hell are you? Who the hell are you? Why am I going to listen to you?
Yeah. Um,
I'm just kidding.
I am, as far as it goes, unrepresented the episode one, getting to know each other to go kind of over what we're going to do today. We're going to do a light dive into who Brad and I are, and then talk about what you can expect here at this podcast. And it's going to grow into something we're learning as we go, and that's kind of how it starts. So, who am I? I'm just a poor kid from Chicago that got tired of solving problems for other people and started solving my own problems. And it led me down a path and led me to real estate through a very long journey through the Marine Corps, moving across the country multiple times, working for the city of Fort Worth after I put myself through college with the GI Bill here in DFW, here in Fort Worth. And I've been in Fort Worth for the last 15 years. Done a lot. Now that I've been in real estate for the last 5 years, on and off in the beginning, and taking a full plunge jump into it with both feet, hands, and weighted ankles, trying to swim into this game. Uh, just trust your feet, man, and that's exactly what I did. And I spent a metric shit ton of money learning these lessons, and that's who I am. As somebody that's here now, I'm going to do this podcast with you because you're very very convincing and you're a great closer. And that is exactly what that is. Is I am excited to push this out to the world so that people don't have to spend all the money that I spent and can maybe just maybe shorten that learning curve and get to their goals faster. So that's who I
Yeah,
am.
I think that's a good point to kind of note, especially on the first episode. Is like, hey, what the heck are we doing here, right?
Right.
And the goal of this podcast is to give, kind of Back to the Future style, but like give ourselves what we wish we would have had when we decided to, make that jump. Because just like you said, you went, like weight strapped your ankles and stuff. Like when you choose to start jumping into the world of real estate investing specifically, there's no roadmap. I mean, you gotta talk to people. You gotta go through the motions. I think the first thing that I thought to do was, oh, I'm gonna start reading a book. Right? I was like, I'm gonna go. Rich Dad Poor Dad was the book that sparked everything for me, and then I was
Right.
like, okay, cool. I want to do this. Like, yes, all right, cool. I want to do this, but what's my step? I don't know. I have no idea. And that's the goal of this podcast is for you to have that roadmap and the logistics behind it, not just the theory, not just the, oh yeah, you got to invest and build generational wealth, right, which is what everybody talks about, but
Catchphrase, right?
yeah, the buzzword, man, and like it's a real thing, you know. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but it's always like, like I always think like, why do I have to be the one who's like who decided to make this decision of building generational wealth with all the sacrifices? You know what I mean?
For real,
Uh,
man. Yeah.
but that's the point of this, is to give people that roadmap. You know what I mean?
I've
To
heard that
actually
through a lot of my family. I'm definitely a trailblazer, as some would say.
yeah.
I've always fought authority. That's from a young age, and then I got used to, especially with the Marine Corps, because they'll break that out of you real quick. About being an individual, it's always about this team, and I've been searching for that, for most of my life, which is, that camaraderie, that brotherhood, especially after getting out of the military.
Right.
And what I realized is I was an entrepreneur pretending to be an employee. I didn't know what that was. I was following what I was told from those before me, and it was the same book, man. I swear to you, it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. It was like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
The house that I'm currently in, which is a rental that I've now taken back ownership of, and then living in currently here in DFW. This house was owned by one of my mentors,
Mm.
and when I was going through college and I just got to TCU and remembering that, the GI Bill is not enough to go to a private school. I don't care what anybody says. You still need student loans, or you need to work full time. And it's not an easy experience, especially when you go to a 4-year college and all of that stuff. But we're not, tangents aside. He offered me a creative finance deal, Brad. And I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't know what creative finance was at that point. I didn't know what a land contract was or rent to own or any of these things. And he was trying to do us a solid because he liked us, right? He believed in me and my grind and, my ex-wife and I at the time. And I wasn't ready for the opportunity, right? I wasn't ready to accept it because I didn't recognize it truly. And when I came back years later,
what did he offer you though?
He offered to seller finance this house. To where he was gonna, straight rent to own, 0% financing. He said, let's agree on a price and then your rent will now go towards that. And my ex-wife convinced me at the time, no hate towards her. We made that decision together, but I was convinced and I allowed myself to be convinced because I was going to marry this woman, right? So I was like, happy wife, happy life and all of that, right? And I was just young, man. I was in my early 20s. Just got out of the Marine Corps. Was going to college and trying to trailblaze and try to, lift my family up that way. The traditional method, right? That we're all told, go to college, get a job and die for a company, right? And maybe you'll get your day off that you want. You're gonna have to skip your kids' birthdays, and you're gonna have to slave away. And if you want that life, you just got to work your life away. And just Robert Kiyosaki in that book really helped me, really shattered that mind. And it really wasn't even that book. It was the one that followed. It was Cash Flow Quadrant for me, right? Because I had gotten out of college and I had a degree in economics and, political science and stuff. So it was very, theory was something that was strong with me. I was like, this is a mindset shift. And I jumped into it. So now fast forward, now I'm working at the city of Fort Worth. I worked there for, 6-7 years, worked in a whole bunch of different stuff, contracts. I worked in lots of different grant funding and large scale projects, large multifamily projects, underwriting, worked a lot with priority repair program and a bunch of different, housing rehab programs. And that kind of got me into real estate. I've always been a part of it. But getting out of that, I was like, well, now I need a place to stay. My ex-wife and I, we split. And I was like, well, shit, now I need to find a place to stay, right? I'm like, up to this in debt, there was a bunch of drama there, but I still trusted my feet, as I like to say. I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, eating elephant one bite at a time, all those adages. I didn't have a choice though, right? So it was necessity that was pushing me forward. And I reached back out to Sam, and this changed my life, Brad. Like I reached back out to this man and I said, listen, I want to do what you do.
Sam is your
the old landlord, right? He's a mentor of mine now. And I just met him again recently, getting back to Texas, and we had a series of good conversations. And I just missed him and his wife, right? They helped us out. They helped me out a lot. But the way they helped me wasn't what you were thinking. They didn't give me money. They did offer me a sweet ass deal, a decade ago, Yeah. But when I came back to Sam, I said, listen, I'm doing a little better now. I want to buy this out, or I was trying to find a house to buy. And at the same time, I asked him, I said, how do you do what you do? Because his story was very cool too, where he was an electrician, man. And he didn't work for large companies or anything like that. He just had a small client base, and he worked for a smaller company, and he drove a truck around and did electrical work, right? Wow. His wife was an accountant. She worked in different things that were going on around there. I don't remember the exact story of Anita, but like that was she worked the corporate ladder, right? It was one of those. And so it was very traditional in that light. And I was like, how the heck did you transition into real estate? I was like, I want to do this. I want to learn or figure out something. I got into a point where I wanted to go to the next step. And I didn't know what that looked like. And that's kind of what we're doing here is like, if you don't know, but you have an idea, this is a good place for you because you're going to get stories like this and you're going to get those step parts. But then this man hits me and he's like, I need you to do 2 things for me. I need you to read this book and I need you to read this book. And it was both of those books. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is while I was still working at the city of Fort Worth. And it shattered my mindset. It shattered it. Like it broke the mold. And I was just like, oh my God, I could do that. That's why I'm so unhappy, Brad, is that I am pretending to be an employee. I am not that. I am an investor. And if you get into Cash Flow Quadrant, eventually, if you've read that book, then you know what I'm talking about, where I was trying to make this hard shift. And then me being the overzealous jarhead, overachiever, all of that stuff, I was like, well, I'm just going to go from employee to self-employed, to investor, right? And that got me here, right? Which was the very long broken road of me jumping just because I don't know how to do things half-ass. I full-ass everything.
Well, so I want to slow down for 2 seconds because like we're kind of ripping through a lot of your stuff. And so I guess I'm going to dial it back, like really back. So childhood, grew up in Chicago, obviously is what you said, right? You joined the Marine Corps. Was that right out of high school?
No, so I graduated from an alternative high school in Rockford, Illinois, just outside of Chicago when I was 16, and
Okay.
proceeded to screw my life up terribly. We can talk about that some other time. You guys can check on my YouTube channel. I'm about to put a video up about like
Sure.
all the major events that led here. But as far as that goes, yeah, I came down here right at 18, and
Okay.
both of my parents are Marines, and I fought that tooth and nail. And then I figured out that what my dad got from that, he's been chewed up and spit out a million times, and he never gives up. And I counted that to him joining the Marine Corps and being in the Marine Corps for so long. And my mom, same story. They're just they're gritty people, right? They're hardcore
Right.
blue collar, bootstraps type people. Don't accept help from anybody, and to their detriment to a lot of extent. But yeah, so then I got down here to Texas, recruited to the Marine Corps. Spent 4 years there. I was chemical, biological, radiological nuke. I was a combat door gunner. Did a whole bunch of different stuff. Then I got out, and
because of Marine Corps.
I'm sorry.
You went to Texas because of Marine Corps.
I went to Texas, and then I found the Marine Corps. I didn't go to Texas for the Marine Corps. I just recruited out of Dallas, and my dad left when I was young, and there's a bunch of drama there. But like
Sure.
from the backside there, I met him basically and got to know him when I was 18. And in that process, that 6-7 months, I came down here in like April of 2006, I think it was. But anyway, so I spent that time. He helped me get a job, helped me get my shit together. With a lot of strong hands, is all I'm going to say, right? Because I need a strong hand if you're going to try and control me, right? And that was a very strong man that took that job on. And then I realized a lot of that stuff came from the Marine Corps, and I went down that path myself, right, with the support of my family, because they knew I needed guidance. They knew I needed a strong hand to help kind of calm this dragon down, right?
Sure.
Like fighting
So
at everything,
So you joined. How long were you in there?
I was in for 4 years. Yeah.
4 years. Okay. And then once you come back, once you're stateside.
It's a funny story, actually. I left at 18, and I still considered Chicago home, Rockford, Chicago home. I really did. And then I got back, and I got out of the Marine Corps. My buddy came and picked me up, and we drove back, and it was a great road trip. It was a lot of fun. And then I get back there, and I'm like, oh shit, I need a job, man. and I did a lot of fishing, and I relaxed and kind of unwinded from that crazy experience. And eventually it got cold, and I realized what people do up north. And this is something that really makes my stomach turn. But at the time, especially now, I understand the game a little better, and I don't judge as much, right? So I'm like, these people are doing the best they can, but they do this crazy shit where you work your ass off throughout the summer because you got good weather. And these are roofers, right? This is what I did the entire time I was there. Is I ran a crew, I did all kinds of stuff, right? And it's hard labor, and I'm used to that shit though. I love hard labor. I wish I could make as much money as I make now doing that stuff because I love hard labor. It just doesn't pay as well. And anyway, so it got cold, man, and I don't mess with the cold, not anymore. I grew up in that shit. I'm good. It's different level of cold than people are used to. They're like, well, you can add more clothes to your body. I'm like, then you walk around like the Michelin Man, you're still freezing your balls off. I'm good. No. They're like, well, you can only take so many clothes off. I'm like, I don't know why you need to. Just go. Everybody's got air conditioning. I don't know what you're talking about. Come to Texas. It's awesome. And anyway, then I came down here, and then I got serious, right? My brother helped me out at the time. And let me stay with him a couple of months. I got a job, and that's when I realized that I was set apart, right? Because I had these experiences in the Marine Corps, and because I took that very seriously. I got a lot of certifications. I did some college while I was in, and I realized that I had separated myself from a lot of the people, and I got a good job above my brother. That pissed him off, right? He thought I was going to be a welder's helper, and I came in as the safety director, right? So it was like a different world, and I started to see this divergence. And so I had to take it very seriously because there was a lot of haters, man. Not to give my dad too much shit, but I can quote him saying, he's like, that shit'll never pay the bills. And so I framed my first check from the city and sent it to him. I'm not even joking. I demanded a paper check just for this purpose.
Oh, bro.
Because like that's the thing. So my wife, she says this too. She's like, listen, I don't really worry about getting even. She's like, but if I do, she's like, I'll shit in your heart. I was like, yeah, don't mess with that woman either, right? Because we lead with value, Brad. I want to help every person I meet. Just don't waste my time. Don't lie to me, and don't steal from me. And we could be the best of friends,
That's hilarious.
So yeah, I got down here. Then I decided to go to college because nobody had done that, and Worked at the city for a long time. And then again, reading those books that Sam told me to read. He wouldn't talk to me. That was the key here. He would not talk to me about any of the things that he was up to until I could show him that I had read those books. And, you know, especially being out of college for so long, I was like, man, fuck books.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. Like, I was like, oh man, I got to read this fucking book. But as soon as I started reading that book, man, I couldn't stop turning the damn pages, man. I was just like, God, this is what I was looking for. Why is college not like this? Why is high school not about this? Like, why am I only hearing this in my 20s, my late 20s, early 30s? Why am I only hearing this now? And why did I have to find it myself? You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of why we're here today, right?
I think it's the next level. You know, it's like you get these moments, and I've talked to you about this before, but it's like you get these moments where you feel this shift in like in kind of your life overall, I guess, but you feel these shifting moments or the pivotal moments, I should say. And it's this shift towards your next level. You know what I mean? It's like you get this taste of, like, from reading a book. Typically that's how it works for me actually too, which is really funny. As I've learned that I need to constantly surround myself with stuff that is moving me forward, books seem to be this like just constant, right? And I'm the same way. Like, once I pick up a book, it's like, oh shoot, dude, like that's all I want to do is I want to read that book, because ultimately it's just constantly expanding my mind, and I feel this movement towards, oh my gosh, I'm the type of guy that you give me one concept or you give me one idea, and there's going to be 50 million that spread out of it. You know what I mean?
I can attest to that. I can attest to that. It's like roping it back in, though, right? Like,
Exactly. So like I'm very like creative in that aspect, but it allows me to figure out, oh my God, dude, there is. And the cool thing about real estate, like, you can say this in life, but like real estate specifically, there are levels to this game, dude. Like, there are levels to this game that you don't even know, like, you can play. And then once you figure out that, like, oh shoot, I see the next one, you finally like start making movement towards that, and you see that there's 5 more levels, and it's like, holy crap, man. Like, this
you just keep peeling back layers, right? Or expanding layers, or it's like you break through one barrier and there's 50 more. But the thing is you're building along the entire way. I think is the key here. You know, if you're looking for the lesson, you can find it.
Your point about you know, reading a book and then expanding your mind is exactly what happened to me, right? In that I had, you know, I had same kind of similar. I didn't do the Marines. I didn't join the military, but right out of high school, I was the first person to go to college. Like my mom was adamant that, like, hey, you know, you got to go to college, you got to get a degree. I want you to have a safe job, right? And for me, having the safe job was like the death of me. Like, you know, I went to college. I always say I did my time, you know. Like,
you ain't lying. You ain't lying though.
I did my time at college. And then after I got the job, I was recruited to I don't think there's an issue with saying with it, but I got recruited to work for Ford Motor Company at the time. And it was just, I mean, it's just corporate, man, corporate life, you know, like that great company. You know, there's a ladder for you to climb if you desire to do that. There's a lot of opportunity with a big corporation like that. It just wasn't for me. Like, honestly, it just wasn't for me. And so there came this time where they had this big restructuring. They were giving out these packages to people who, like, they were eliminating a bunch of positions and stuff like that. And I was like, I'll take it. Like, I'll take it. Because I knew the path that I was going down was just not going to work out, to be honest. And I was figuring out that, like, I always had this desire to own my own business. And weirdly, like, I didn't have a concept for what kind of business I wanted to own. I just wanted to own a business. I just wanted to be a business owner. And so right out of Ford, I did the worst possible thing that you could do. And I cashed out the 401k. I took all my savings and I went and I bought a camper van that I was not going to live in it. I took this camper van and I dumped even more money into it to turn it into a dog adventure van, right? And that's the business that I originally started. Is I started working with like highly trained dogs. I started like taking them out for adventures, like retrievers, sniff, like just all sorts of working dogs, right? And I would take them out, and it was the weirdest thing. I always remember this moment. Is the weirdest thing for me was after I got done, like I built this van, I did all this stuff, I put in, maybe like 6 months of work to create this thing. I did all the business work, like logos and everything. I got the van wrapped, and then I went and I took somebody's dog out, and I brought him back to them. And I remember this weird like, oh, now you have to pay me. You know what I mean? Like this weird like shift of, I don't think people give enough credit to or think about it enough of like when you have to make a shift from an employee mindset that we're trained in, right? Like throughout school and everything, you're trained to be an employee. But when you make the shift from employee mindset to business owner mindset, to where it's not, oh yeah, no matter what I do, I just got to show up every day and I get a check deposited to my bank account, right? It is such a different shift, dude, to move into business owner where it's like, hey, I did this, you give me money. You know what I mean? Like that is, dude, that's a big shift.
But even further on that, though, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to kind of go back to the entrepreneur versus, you said business, I'm going to say employee, right? So it's like, because in the cash flow quadrant, they talk about that too. I recommend everybody read that book. But when I was there, I was chastised. And when you heard me say this just a couple of minutes ago, where I said I got tired of solving other people's problems, right? So I decided to solve them for myself. But the piece I left out was, and being resented for it, right? So I left the most efficient fighting force on the frickin' planet, right? And it is, I'm talking, everything is detailed down to the nth degree, so that anybody that falls can pick up, right, wherever they left off. They can keep the mission alive, right? Keep going forward. And then I get out of there and I go to college and I meet all these kids. Is exactly what it was, man. With a bunch of these kids, I heard terms like victory lap. I was like, what the hell is that? Like, we got shit to do today. Like, y'all are, I'm gonna take an extra lap at college just because. What are you doing? Like, you obviously don't have the drive. You don't have the requirement to be successful as I do, right? We come from different places. We're cut from different cloth. Well, then I get to the city and I'm like, oh, I got my big boy job. Brad, I was making, 55 grand a year, fresh out of college. That was a lot of freaking money for me. I'd never seen, nobody in my family was making money like that, except for like the rich people that don't talk to us,
So true.
And then I get there and I start busting it out, man, because I was like everything else I ever did, which is make myself indispensable, get in there and just kill myself for this place. And then hopefully they'll love me enough to where they'll keep me, or they'll protect me, or maybe, just maybe, they'll respect me, right? Like just maybe. And I remember there's this one guy, Silton, God bless him. I love this guy, right? But lifetime employee, right? He was an older cat. And he comes in and he sees me busting ass and he's like, whoa, young buck, slow down. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I got shit to do. He was like, yeah, but didn't they say I just left the same meeting as you? Didn't they say that wasn't due until next Thursday? I was like, yeah, but if I get this out of the way, then I can finish this other stuff. He was like, it'll be there tomorrow. That never computed in my head. I've never been that guy. I have been thrust into leadership positions my entire life. So in that situation, that just does not compute. So that's what I meant by, like, I'm an entrepreneur, and that's, you have to go fight for yourself. You have to fend for yourself. You made this, and then there's this awkward piece, which is now you owe me money, right?
Yeah.
I still struggle with that. I'm so glad you said that, because it's still weird to accept money now. Thankfully, a lot of it's digital now, especially with what we do with real estate, right? So there's less of that human interaction there, but it is still this reciprocity situation where it's like, I did something for you. And then my least favorite thing, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, at one of these later episodes, is people trying to get in your pocket, right? Like, how many times have you done a deal? Well, it's probably only happened once or twice because you put your foot down and you learned how to navigate that situation, I'm sure. But when I first got it started, I'd have buyers, right? People that were looking at, a contract that I had that I was assigning. And then I didn't understand HUDs or this, that, or the other, right? I didn't understand the ways that you could protect your assignment. And he was like, you're making too much money. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then isn't that the same thing where it's like, you owe me money, right? I went and got this banger of a deal, and now you're trying to get into my pockets. It's like going to get a scone from Starbucks, and then the employee's like, your listed price was $500, $5 for this thing, but I'm only going to give you $350 because it's not that good.
Right? Yeah.
Or
I think that kind of what we're circling around is a big key piece for all of this, right? Is in the world of real estate, there is this is kind of what's matching up, is like in the world of real estate, everything everything is a negotiation. You know what I mean? Like every piece of it is a negotiation. And so if you're not like versed in it, or if you're not comfortable with it, you need to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like the piece of there is like the roadmap that we're going to create with Unrepresented will give you the guidance every step of the way to figure out like, hey, here is exactly what you do. Right. Because exactly what you said, there will be so many people along the way who are going to be asking, who are going to be, trying to get in your pocket, as you said, right? There's going to be all these people who are trying to, I don't know what a nice way to say it is, but
Then
they're
just say it.
trying to
It's
get some
our
shit out of
podcast.
you. Everybody's trying to eat. You know what I mean? In real estate, that's the game. It's like everybody's trying to eat. Agents are trying to eat. Title escrows trying to eat. Sellers, buyers, like all these people are trying to eat. You know what I mean? And so that is, I think that's kind of a tough piece for a lot of people who jump into it and they don't know exactly how to handle these scenarios. And I think that is the coolest freaking part about what we're gonna do, bro. Like we're just gonna show exactly.
Break it down that this is my life lesson that I have learned, and it's taken me a long time, and I'm sure I'm going to have to relearn this a million times over before I die, right? Which is, it's just people. It's always just people behind that badge, that robe, that wig, whoever it is that has that authority over that situation, right? It's theater. It's theater is what it is, right? And my controversial, unpopular opinion, Brad, you don't need a real estate agent, folks. You don't need it. You don't need it. You can go do everything that they do on your own. Even if you're in a state like Texas, right? That is a non-disclosure state. What does that even mean, right? It means that people don't have to disclose the sales or the prices of those sales. And that means that you don't have the most accurate information like on Zillow or things like that, right?
Sure.
So it's like, well, what would I do? Well, I need to go to a real estate agent. You need to go do some research is what you need to do. Right.
Yeah.
Because what did you say the other day about this being the most important decision, right? It's an investment. It's all of that.
Well, the buying a house in general is what I was saying is buying a house is statistically the largest investment that somebody will make in their entire life. Right. And the ironic part of that is that we don't just do it once. We, on average, the average person will buy 3 houses in their lifetime. And the craziest part to me is that with the statistically largest investment that we'll make in our entire life, the biggest thing that you could ever do, we hand the process off to somebody else. We let them kind of lead that charge for us, right? We let them negotiate on our behalf. We just hand over the keys to that car essentially, right? And hey, yeah, Mr. Chauffeur, drive us, right? Now, is that good for some people? Sure, like you don't want to be hands-on maybe, but if you want to make sure that your best interests are at the forefront of every single negotiation, conversation, or anything, then you need to take charge of that, right? And that's what this is all about, is being able to take that power back and understand what goes into what goes into every part of this. When I buy a house, I'll tell you, when we bought I'll try to keep it as vague as possible so I don't beat anybody up. But when we bought a house, and this was very early on, before I was even in real estate at all. I remember, and this is such a basic question, but I remember asking when we bought this house, I remember asking like, hey, can we go tour this house? We had a real estate agent, typical, right? Hey, we want to buy a house. Okay, cool. Let's get a real estate agent. I remember I asked my real estate agent, I said, hey, can we go tour this house? I want to go see it like this afternoon. It was a really hot market at the time. This was like, it doesn't matter. But like I said, try to keep it vague. And the agent, the first thing with me there, dude, this was the time that I realized this was all a sham. With me there, agent pulls up on the phone, scrolls on the MLS, scrolls down and says, oh, The BAC is only 1.5% on this. He's shortchanging the buyer's agent. Buyer's agent commission, BAC. BAC is only 1.5%. They're shortchanging me. Are you okay with covering the rest of it? And he said, like, my fee is 2.5%. And at the time, I had no clue what any of that meant. I was like, oh, sure, yeah, whatever that means, like, I'm sure it'll work out. But didn't want to show the house if, because of the lower commission, without establishing this thing up front, which, to be honest, as an agent, I think you should do that, right? If you expect to get paid a certain amount. I'm not hating on the agent. However, for me, it was very clear at that point that agent's primary focus in this entire thing was, what am I going to get paid when you buy this house? Right. And for me, that was a non-starter, because I realized you don't have my best interest in mind right now. You're looking at when I tell you, hey, I found a house that I think is great for my family and I'm going to be able to raise my kids there. I think it has a really cool backyard. I could see like all these things that I'm kind of envisioning. And I say, hey, can we go see it? And you say, oh, what am I going to get paid? That for me was the biggest indicator that, dude, I need to understand this better, because I don't know really anything about this process. And ultimately, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to be left holding the bag is what it came down to, And so that's when I started diving into, like, how do these transactions actually work? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when I bought my first house, I did a poor man's flip, is what I consider it, right? Is I used the VA loan and I found a beater, right? And that's what I wanted to buy. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I know how to do all the construction. I'm going to go do it all myself. And then I did all the construction and realized that I really like it. So but I got a really good deal. But it was the same thing. I had no idea about the VA loan. What the hell am I doing? I didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground, as they say, right? So I was just like, I was lost. And I go to a real estate agent. Right, because I think that they have my best interest at heart, or whatever the case. They sell a good game, right? Just like every other salesperson you've ever met. And I'm not saying that all realtors are bad by any means, but I will mention that according to Consumer Federal, for the CFA, that less than or just close to half of real estate agents didn't sell a single house last year, right? But when I ask people on the street, my friends, my family, right, and when they ask me what I do, I have to break it down to them, and I say I'm an investor. They're like, "Oh, you're a real estate agent." I was like, "Hell no!" Right? And I'm hard against that shit. I took the course, right? I paid the $3,000 for the course. I never took the test, thank God, right? Because it would have taken me, like, no. Hey, look, I'm saying what I feel. Y'all got a problem with it? Hit me in the comments. I'll fight you every day. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I have tons to say, right? Because of ignorance, and like you said, man, it's what I constitute as a rational ignorance is exactly what it is. I'm not hating on any of the parties involved. I don't blame the players. I blame the game, as they say, right? So this has been a rigged game in the sense that we're not taught about any of this in school. We were purposefully, in my opinion, kept in the dark over this stuff. That's why we were never taught to balance a checkbook or do anything like that in school. It was all about just become an employee and figure it out, right? Yeah. Kept in the dark, so that when I do this, I ask my friends, my family, how do you buy a house? That's my favorite thing to ask people. When that's like my elevator pitch, so to speak. When like I have this rule, if I'm next to you for more than 30 seconds, I got to ask you what you do, right? Because I need to network for my team, my family, everybody, right? This game is about your word, your bond, and your name, right? There's a reason I said it twice. So how do you buy a house, right? And they're like, oh, well, the good answers that I get, right? The most advanced answers that I get from the layperson is I research my market. Most people don't even say that, right? Where they're like, they didn't even say research. They're like, they always start here. Well, I got to find a real estate agent, and then I got to find somebody to loan me the money, right? Yep. And those people, those individual people, just like you said, right, are in it for themselves. Does that mean that they are only in it for themselves? Absolutely not. And that's what I'm saying. Real estate agents aren't bad people. I'm saying they're people, which most people suck. That's the whole point, right? Is you have to guard yourself, and it's your responsibility. It is your responsibility to be the decision maker in your family, whether that means you're doing it as a collective where you have a good relationship and you guys are talking about it together. You still need to do your own research. You don't get to make bad business decisions and claim ignorance because you just became an investor by trying to buy a house. Period. End of story. There's no split in my mind that you get to pretend like you're not an investor when you just spent that much money and you signed all this paperwork, right? Most people don't even read the contracts I put in front of them, and I annoy the hell out of them by making them read them, I'm like, I am not. You're not going to have any buyer's remorse at the end of this. At the end of this, from the very beginning, you are going to know exactly who I am and how I do business. We're going to go over this contract together, right? And it's not your complex state contract that is meant to confuse, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
It is a plain language approved by my attorneys. I want you to give it to your attorneys, and if you don't have an attorney, go freaking get one, right? And guard yourself as a buyer, as a seller, as a business partner. Like that's what I want to drive home here. And I think there's going to be a big piece on that, which is like systems, processes, how to make sure you do the same thing every single time, so that if something goes wrong, you know exactly how to fix it, and you trim down all of those things. But the key here that I think you drew on is that it's not just business people that we want to talk to, right? I want to talk to people, and I want to help people that are at all levels of investment. If you want to get to the point and you're in a business and you're a wholesaler right now and you want help scaling your business, I can help you, right? Because I've done that successfully over the last year. If you have never thought about buying a house and you are one of those people that pays $2,000 a month in rent and thinks you can't afford a house, I want to help you, right? Because you need to at least see the information so that you can then make that decision. Because right now you're playing ignorant, and honey, that ain't the way to go. Right. You need to get your shit together. You need to get your shit together. Let's go. Right. Like, here, I'm going to give you some homework. Right. Like, I think it's it.
I think it's a fair point. This whole unrepresented thing, it applies to so many parts, right? Because I think the biggest, scariest monster for people to even think about jumping into real estate investing or, buying their primary residence, is the fact that it is like, it's made to be this big, scary process. I think that over time, it just like, I could go off on so many tangents, but there's been a lot of money spent to make you believe that it's much more difficult than it is. You know what I mean? There's a process to it. And that's exactly what we're going to show you is the logistics, like the step by step. Here is what you do when you're buying a house. You know what I mean? And breaking down, interviews with experts, because the funny part, here's what I'll make this point, right? Is using an agent is great for many reasons, but when you decide to go unrepresented, people's biggest fear or the biggest claim is, oh, well, the agent is there to protect you, right? To be your guide, right? Like through the whole process. Well, the truth of it is that most people are buying a house with a mortgage, right? And so you have a mortgage broker who is doing, who's figuring out the money part for you, right? So you're not going about this all by yourself. You have a mortgage broker who handles the money for you. You have an inspector who checks out the house for you, right? You have title and escrow who make sure that money is handled appropriately, that title is cleared, that all the paperwork is in order for this thing to go through. So there are so many people that still are professionally licensed, that help you along the way, that make sure things are done appropriately. There's title insurance in case it does go wrong. There's so many pieces that are still protecting you. Even without the real estate agent essentially opens a door for you to go tour the house. You know what I mean? And so and even then, bro, the house that we just locked up that we're going to move into, the agent who listed it let me in. Like, didn't need a buyer's agent, right? So there are ways. What's that?
I said that's the other piece, is like to split out and identify each of these pieces, I think is the major driving point behind what we're putting together here, Brad, is you need to know what all the pieces are so you know what you're buying, right? And you get to make that decision on your own. We're going to give you the tools here to make that decision on your own, which is, do I need a listing agent? Do I need a buyer's agent, right? Do I need to do that? So you can make these claims like I just made this boastful claim, unpopular opinion, right? Look, I know I'm going to catch flack for that, but I don't care because I can guard myself. I know what I'm doing. And so I want to, share that. Transaction coordinators, how do we vet them? What is a mortgage lender? Where do we find them? What is a hard money loan? What's a private money lender? All of these, how do I raise capital if I want to be an investor? How do I, what am I doing in this space, and what is it? I think one of my favorite quotes is that in real estate, we talk about making money, right? That's normally what it is. You're either trying to save money or make money, right? Penny saved is penny earned. So if you're going to go make this giant financial, decision, you need to be guarded so that you can guard your dollars, right? So that you're not paying somebody, 2.5% for what, and you can actually answer that question. Why am I giving you 6%? And why are you double dipping? Or what does that even mean? Right.
Yeah.
And, and to give you those things to be made for yourself, you may decide that I want a listing agent, right? But then through this process, you may decide that, how to guide them or how to help them help you, right? Which is powerful too, because again, I'm gonna pull back just a little bit on my real estate agents, right? Like they're not all shitbags, they're not all terrible people, but there are a lot of bad actors out there, just like there's bad wholesalers, just like there's bad TCs, there's bad mortgage brokers, there's again, back to my original point, it is just people, people. So with that piece, maybe you find out that you do want a buyer's agent. Maybe that is what you want, or maybe you do want to.
I think to kind of hone in on what's happening too around us, right? Outside of this unrepresented bubble, there is this big shift in the realtor industry overall anyways, right? So this NAR settlement, National Association of Realtors, they are, it's already happened, right? And you see it happening now, but it's going to get stronger over time as more people kind of wise up and figure out what they're being asked of, or what's being asked of them. Is now there's this shift to where the buyer's agent has to sign an agreement with any buyer that they're going to show a house to, saying that, hey, if you end up buying this house or want to make an offer, I am your agent for this, right? And that agreement is also going to spell out, you are going to pay me, or you are responsible for paying me X, right? Whatever that percentage commission is, if the seller doesn't agree to pay it. I think that's going to happen more and more and more as people have to start signing these agreements, as people have to start, having these agreements in place to even tour a house. I think questions are going to pop up. Sellers now have to be more cognizant of, hey, do I want to pay 6%? Do I want to give up 6%? Like that's a lot of money when you start to get to these bigger values. 6% can be a lot of money. And so when a seller is staring down the barrel of giving up, $60,000, I mean, it depends on like the value of the house, but 6% of their house to real estate agents to cover the other side, it's like, okay, well, I just have to negotiate your half, right? 3%, 3.5%, whatever it is. And I can pocket another 3% on my house. Hell yeah, I'm going to do that. And so now the conversation shifts to the buyer's agent of, hey, you're responsible for paying me, right? And I think that that's going to make a lot of people really uncomfortable. It's going to make them start questioning, what do you do? Like what is your role? Like what am I paying for ultimately, right? And to be fair, I think there is room for the good agents who do want to show that value to get better at that job, to figure out how to negotiate better, to figure out how to better, be there for these people. But ultimately, like it is the home buyer who is at the forefront of everything. You know what I mean? So that's who we're kind of making this content for.
Yeah, there are good agents out there, and let me just piggyback on that piece right there. I have an agent that I work with right now, Marcella, and she goes above and beyond. She's my listing agent, right? So I have a wrap that I'm selling, and I'm looking for a very specific kind of buyer here in Arlington. And she has been at the house multiple times. She cleaned it herself, right? There's a back area that needed clean. She showed up with her people to clean it. She goes above and beyond, is what I'm saying. But that's not in the contract, is what I'm saying. Right. No. And back to you see, like that's that go-getter that would benefit. And I think that I need to defend that agent, right? Which is that's not a shitbag. That's a good actor that actually cares about her clients. And they're few and far between though, like because I've met more of those that you just mentioned about, flipping through and be like, well, I'm not going to make any money, so I'm not going to look at this, This woman is like, hey, I need to help you. And if I help you, then we're going to work on 10 more deals together. And I'm like, yes, we are. I'm out here I'm networking and testing the boundaries and testing the waters and saying things and seeing how they respond. The step-by-step, I think a big piece here is like, how are we going to do that, Brad? Like, how are we going to show these people this stuff? Is it just going to be death by PowerPoint? right? Or are we going to do some
Yeah.
other stuff? So
Yeah.
I can tell you, my side of things is the systems, right? Systemizing things, taking the flack out of it, right? I have a lot of training with not just the Marine Corps, right? And I've been through Lean Leader, Six Sigma, all the other stuff. It's been repackaged and repackaged and repackaged. If you want to know how to make a system clean and lean, right, to make it to where you can take all that flack out and put all that money into marketing or any of that stuff, that's it, right? If you that's my skill set there. Are there going to be some PowerPoints in that? I'm sure, right? I haven't created them yet, right? But will there be some? Yeah, this is going to be free form. I think the best part is what you and I are going to do with guests, right? How long have we been doing this, right? We're both on like our 4th or 5th year as far as it goes. I know that you've been a little longer in that space, but we've made a lot of good, relationships in this area, right?
Yeah. No, lots of people. I mean, ultimately, we're going to have. So here's the thing. There will be a layout of steps and process, right? It's like, okay, cool. Hey, how do I find a house? Okay, cool. We'll teach that. But then how do I close, right? How do I finalize everything, the contract, right? How do I get funded? All that stuff. Like A to Z will lay out the process. But then along the way, there's so many people that you interact with, right? Like all those people I kind of mentioned earlier, but there's way more than that even. And so we have a lot of connections over these last whatever handful of years, what you will, that we're gonna bring all these people in. And we're gonna have conversations with them, and they're gonna give their piece about, hey, here's what you need to focus on. Here's what you need to be aware of. Here's all the ins and outs, right? Here's all the secret sauce. Is really what I want to kind of get out of them too, to be honest.
Same.
But figure out like
you can't grow unless you get uncomfortable, right? And
yeah.
I want to ask some hard questions.
I want the juice. So anyways, to sit down with these people and interact with them so that we fully understand the process, because I think that's the best way to learn. I don't know. I'm not like, again, going back to the employee, like sitting in school, like whatever, like all that stuff. Can't just learn by PowerPoint, right? Death by PowerPoint. And so I think that the interviews are going to be really cool. We're also going to do a bunch of live stuff. So we are going to do, there's going to be opportunities for people to interact with us live, to make calls with us live, because much like your skill set is systems, process, scaling, how to not just do it once, but do it over and over and over. My skill set is, and for some reason always has been, sales and marketing, right? It is I know how to capture somebody's attention, right? And I know how to navigate a difficult conversation without pissing a bunch of people off if I need to, or I could.
Yeah, I color myself. I hate this term closers, right? I hate the term closer, but I've learned to love it just because if you can do it well, there's not very many people out there that do it as well as you, right? And that's just the reality. I learned a lot from you over the last few years. Now I'm pretty damn good at what I do, Brad. And that's kind of the point here. But we're not in competition. We're on the same team here, right? But the healthy competition amongst brothers, that's kind of what that is, right?
Yeah.
But my background, and to caveat on that, is education. I have taught one of my skill sets being CBRN in the Marine Corps, being a safety director for an industrial company, multi-million-dollar projects and all of that stuff, 300 employees, and then breaking down hard concepts from federal grant funds to public service agencies and local nonprofits to help them get funding for their admissions. Right, having to do all of that is I had to learn how to. The way we would say it in the Marine Corps is to break it down Barney style, right? And like the big purple dinosaur, right? Break it down to where even a child could understand it, and that's something that I'm really good at. But the way you do that is training, right? But it's teach one, show one, do one, right? So I'm going to teach you how to do it. That's what we're going to do with this long form podcast, and we're going to show you how to do it, and that's going to be the first level of that live action. And then there will be an opportunity for you to literally interact, and that's going to be our Facebook group that we've got, Unrepresented. It's just started up, but that's going to be a live place where you can do that. That's where there will be polls, where you will have a hand in what content we produce, what questions you have, these kinds of things. But then furthermore is this nice little branding that you see right here, right? Is that Closers Cafe piece, which is going to be that live call session, right? That's the live fire round where you're going to see us actually do this instead of just talk about it, right? But it's the interviews that I want to do. That's the other show one, right? So instead of just talking about the things you need to look at in PowerPoint fashion and how to vet a TC or transaction coordinator, right? We're going to bring you a badass transaction coordinator, and then they are going to talk about all of the things that they do, one, and then two, what to look for as an investor. If you're a local investor, if you're a wholesaler, if you're, whatever your role is, you can live interact with these people too. So a lot of Q&A, but a lot of practical application. And I think that's the big thing that's going to separate us from a lot of people is we're literally going to show you how to do it. Right. And then let you watch us do it. And then we're going to force you to do it. we are gonna make you uncomfortable so you can grow into whoever it is that you want to become for your family. That's what it is.
I think that's the piece is like, you kind of need a bit of a battle buddy, right? You need the support role, right? And that's what this whole group and community is going to be, is the support role, the place to ask your questions, the place to get the difficult answers, the nuanced answers, right? Because in Unrepresented, we're going to lay out all of this information. There's a process to follow, but a lot of the time there's tiny nuances in every individual deal that come up that you're like, how do I answer this? Or how do I handle this? And that's why we're creating this, so that you have a place to go to where you can get help with that. Now, Closers Cafe is, what you alluded to is like, it's going to be the live form of that. It's going to be, not just posting in a forum. It's going to be actually, hey, let me hop on the phone. Let me help you do this. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest piece that, again, circling back to when I first started, what was I looking for? I was kind of looking for somebody to, I guess mentor me, but like just hold my hand. Like I just want, much like when you came to me, right? Like when we first connected, it's like, dude, just get me through the end of one of these, right? Like one of these, like, these creative finance deals. And I wanted the same thing when I first started. It's like, dude, somebody just hold my hand. Just please.
Well, we also, to point that out though, is you got to be humble to learn. You do. You have to, if you, I've been doing this for 30 years and you think you know everything. Well, the game has changed since then. And that's probably why you suck right now. Yeah. Right. And unless you have, and once your clients die, you don't have any more clients because you haven't grown with the times. And so like, that's the thing here is when I met you, we were part of another mentorship, right? That we had both invested a hefty amount of cash into to do exactly that. And to get that breakdown, all I wanted was the contracts, bro. I saw the sales funnel for what it was. I knew exactly what the hell I was joining. Right? As soon as I got in there, I saw that community, and the paywall, right? That's a big paywall. It's a great community, but not everybody's got that kind of money, And so when I met you, it's exactly what I told you. I said, I don't give a shit about an assignment, Brad. Teach me this shit. I was like, what? Let me watch you do this. Walk me through it. What, you need a lead? You need a deal? I'll bring you leads. I'll bring you deals. Just watch. I need to know, because it wasn't the same as like a typical cash transaction, for full disclosure. It's a much more complicated thing. Yeah. And I think when we were talking the other day, I did an okay job of breaking this down, where it's like a cash transaction is this, right? You're just a buyer. You're just a seller. You're just like on the MLS. You're just trying to go buy a single house, like a homestead or something like that. Yeah. That's like playing checkers. Right. It's still a game. It still has rules. Right. And then if you want to get into the wholesale game, you want to get into, building this into a business, or you want to elevate to a different type of strategy instead of buying cash. There's multiple other ways that you can purchase properties that a lot of people don't know about. So if you want to get into that, that's like chess. Right. It's the same board, same pattern. But from that point, it's all different pieces, and all of those pieces now have their own rules. And so you have to understand the rules of the game to win, right? Or at least not lose your ass, right? So, because the first one's going to be a little rough. And that's what I was begging for. I was just begging for it. I even paid, $12,000 to join this mentorship, and I still didn't get that. What I got was the community, and I found you in that community, and then you helped me grow on that in that capacity, right? But now look at us, right? It was the hunger, man. I came in there humble, and I was willing to just give the farm away, just so I could get a sit down and truly understand this from left to right, like from front to back. That's what I want to give.
That's exactly, bro. Like now we're taking all of that information, taking all of that school of hard knocks, if you will, right? All of that experience. And being like, dude, we spent a god awful amount of money to learn all these lessons, and I'm just gonna package it up because I wish Brad had this when he started. You know what I mean? I wish Eric had this when you started, and like to be able to give that to somebody else and not just hand it. This is what I like. It keeps blowing my mind. But like Closers Cafe will be this little subsection of Unrepresented, right? But ultimately, we're going to package up all of this information, all of this experience, all this money that we've spent, and hand it to somebody to take control of the biggest investment of their own life. But then on top of that, it's not just a here you go, see you later. It's a hey, come back and I'll help you. I'll help you do everything
Absolutely.
that you need. You know what I mean? And I think that type of help is like we don't have a dog in the fight of like your investment or anything. Like I don't have a commission on the line of your deal or I don't know, house that you're looking at or anything like that. I'm just going to be here to guide you to literally give you an unbiased third party knowledgeable piece of advice, you know what I mean, and guide you down the path to be able to get this thing done for yourself. So I think that that's going to be the coolest part, because we'll interact with some awesome people along the way. We'll have a lot of different conversations. You'll see us talk with agents. You'll see us talk with mortgage brokers. There's all kinds of people that I'm already kind of lining up, transaction coordinators, stuff like that. And you may not even know, like, that's the funny thing is somebody watching this right now may not even know who the hell all those people are, but you're going to learn. And this is just who the hell is Eric and who the hell is Brad. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, as it goes, we got, an hour in here. This can take, the beauty of this, Brad, is we can do whatever the fuck we want. It's like we're unchained, right? It's like, we started this, and it's like, I'm not trying to throw shots by any means, but also I ain't afraid of nobody. And that's what it comes down to. Is we're unchained, baby.
Yeah.
Right. So we can be ourselves, and I love working with you, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. By the way, guys, we did this 100% virtually. We've done all of this virtually. We have built our businesses. Now, both of us are now in our backyards because we went wide and then niched in. But if you're trying to change your stars, if you've ever seen A Knight's Tale, it's one of my favorite movies, right? Seriously, it's one of my favorite movies.
R.I.P. Heath.
That's right. Like, it's goofy, it's funny, but it's serious, and it's one of those things about changing your stars, man. Poor kid from Chicago. If you would have told me 30 years ago that I would have started a business, have 7 employees, and be turning over multiple deals a month, right? I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to be like my dad. I'm going to join the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And those are trailblazers, man. I left there, and what happened when I left the Marine Corps? Everybody was like, you're going to fail as a civilian, and any Marine knows that that's exactly what happens. They put you through all these fucking courses, and they're like, oh yeah, it's all so scary out there, just stay here, and it's like, I'm gonna do differently, right? When I got out, I had even my own family telling me it was a waste of time to go to college, right? And I'm like, well, you motherfuckers got out of here and didn't go to college, and then now you're telling me it's a bad idea because you didn't do it? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm gonna go do my own thing. Holler at you at the top, right? And I'm still gonna lift these people up, but Connor Price mentions that too. He said, I'm just gonna show them the receipts, and that's what I'm doing here. Is I want to show you guys the receipts, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
Because I've spent a lot of money. But if you want to see how I closed a $200,000 assignment in October last year, or you want to see all the deals that I've done this year, I'll do deal dives. We'll go over the HUDs. We'll go over all of the different stuff. The deep dives into how we learn these lessons and how we now save a ton of money. Because trust me, it was paved with blood and a lot of money, right?
Dude, that's such a valid point. What you just said is and I think you and I are kind of similar in this regard, but we gloss over a lot of our like massive achievements because you're just moving. Like we're just business owners. Like we got to keep going, next step, right? Like you closed a $200,000 assignment, which means you flipped a contract essentially, but you closed a $200,000 assignment, and it's not like, oh, this just happens. You know what I mean? It's not like you learned one thing and then $200,000 came. There was so much information that you had gathered, you implemented, you trial tested, and all of that is what leads up to something like that. You know what I mean? Like the house that we just locked up, $200,000 under their listing price. The only reason I'm able to do that is because of all the experience that I've gathered prior, right? And it's like, oh yeah, cool. Well, yeah, you just called up an agent and you got a deal on a house. No, bro. Like you have to understand how to negotiate. You have to understand the nuances of conversation, what to say so that people take you seriously. There's all these pieces, and you have to understand and be credible. You know what I mean? And so that's what you and I did with both of those deals, to where like that's the value that we're going to package and just hand to somebody, bro.
Exactly.
Like, that's gonna be cool.
Like, you don't pay an electrician for the 2 hours that they're there, right? An electrician, a plumber, a tradesman, anybody that comes into your house, right? And then look at the bill and be like, $70 an hour. What the hell do they do for $70 an hour? They replace 2 pipes. How fast do they do that? And do you have the satisfaction and say, security that pipe isn't going to bust, right? So you're not paying that person. You're not paying us for anything, obviously. But like, as far as the service here goes, you look at that and you're like, oh my God, if any of the buyers would have looked at that and saw that and had a problem with it, it's like, oh my God, how dare you make that much money, right? But I'm like, well, how about all the deals I didn't make any money on? How about the ones that failed? How about all of the months that I went without a paycheck and was eating ramen noodles, even with, being 35 and making great decisions in my life, right? Like all the pain and struggle it took to get here, just like an electrician fixing that pipe for that. Well, then lower his wage and then he's going to take 12 hours, right? And he's going to have you that uncomfortable for that amount of time. You're paying him to do it fast, right? And in order to do that, he needs a lot of experience. He or she needs a lot of experience and time and energy and resource. That's everything that we've put in. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. All you got to do is participate with us. All you got to do is go to our Facebook group, join it. It's free. It's a private group, but it's free. Join that group and start posting. Ask your questions. I want to know about all of you. I want to know what your history is in real estate, whether that you've never bought a house, you're just renting. Because guess what? The best part about real estate is the worst thing about real estate is that you can make money a million different ways, right? And that means that there's a million different places for you to find yourself. Even if you're a renter, you still are in the real estate space. You are a renter. You have a unique experience that I want to know about because I want to know you as a person, what you're looking for, right? And maybe, just maybe, if you're in the right area and this group when it grows to that point, you're going to be able to source your own solutions on your own. You're not even really going to need us. And that's the whole point. But there's going to be somebody behind you that is still going to need all of this. And they're going to need the questions that you discuss. Because I don't know what you don't know, right? I need to know what you guys want to see and hear, and if I piss you off, good. Bring it, right? Tell me what you got, right? If I
Jocko, good.
Come on.
How does we'll end on this. How does somebody, I mean, we could put the link in the description, right? But how is the Facebook group just like facebook.com/unrepresented, or what is it? Do we know off the top of our heads? If not, we can just put it in the description. But ultimately, that's what I want people to. What is it?
There's no chat here, but yes, it's just Facebook Unrepresented.
Facebook.com/unrepresented.
Yeah, it's actually group / and a big O number. For the recording, it's 13. Yeah, okay, exactly. Yeah. And so here's the other thing, folks, as we close out, is we are going to learn and grow through this as well. If you go to my Instagram, and I'm putting this on everything now, Brad. I'm listening to what you've been coaching me through, and even now, right? Getting uncomfortable and growing is if you go to my Instagram right now, you're not going to see a single video except for the one that Brad just put out. That's crazy. It's 2024, and I've never posted an Instagram. That's crazy. People think I'm a bot, right? So I'm going to develop and grow along the way. So I have things to learn yet still, right? Because I've been focused on all that other stuff. So that's something that's going to be fun too. Social media is not my jam, but it will be. And the reason why is because it needs to be, because my team needs this. My company needs this. And I need to get damn good at this so that I know what I'm paying for when I pay somebody to do it for me.
Yeah. Well, in order to do like more deals, bigger deals, stuff like that, like people need to know who you are. You need to make connections, right? And so that's the piece is like when dude, I've come across, and I don't know how, and I got to go here like literally 1 minute, but I just don't understand how people operate these massive companies in the shadows. I'm like, dude, I want to do, like, I find it fun to sit here and do business with you. I find it fun to interact with people. I don't know. Like I'm it's kind of an oxymoron because I'm a total introvert, but at the same time, I love interacting with people. Right. And I love, like, I just think it's more fun doing this stuff with a community behind you, with another battle buddy, stuff like that. So that's the whole point, is like, you have to make yourself known so that you can meet more people and do this thing like with some excitement.
It's passion, and that's why you can be an introvert and still your passion involves being social, right? There's social introverts, closet introverts, whatever you want to say. One of the best ways to do that is I actually have that up there, right? which is, Facebook.com, Eric Vodka. If you go to my page, you can find it there, as well as my Instagram and that phone number there if you guys do need to reach out or anything like that. I'm not going to plug that shamelessly this entire time. I think everything needs to be in that unrepresented group. So it is a group that we just created. So if you go to my Facebook page, you can find that group and add yourself to that group, or shoot me a message on Facebook, and then I'll shoot you the link. It's that simple.
There we go. Cool, man.
Yeah. Well, that was our first one, man. 001.
Yeah, sweet.